Thank you very much for asking me, girls. I've really enjoyed all of the speakers today. You know, I'm supposedly an ethical fashion expert, but like everyone else, I'm always learning. I was really, really pleased to see such a wide offering, including things like circular economists. We have to start thinking this way. So I've called my talk Changing Normal. Before I start, I just very briefly, my own story. I've been in the fashion industry for 25 years. I started as an intern, age 15, working at Harper's Bazaar, back in the day when Anna Wintour was a fashion assistant. And Mario Testino was testing, coming in with his... and I just worked my way up through the industry, working at Vogue. I became a fashion editor. I love fashion, like everyone here. We're fashion people. I believe fashion people are born, not made. I think we're slightly weird, and I like that, you know. And I love my industry. I've called this talk Changing Normal because what I'm finding throughout, at the minute, all systems, whether we're looking at farming, banking, education, so many people I speak to, they just shrug their shoulders and go, well, that's just how it is. I believe with all my heart, I'm going to start here, and we'll just go through this, any questions at the end, but we have to start rethinking what is normal and questioning what so-called normal is right now. So my starting point, really 10 years ago, you know, as a deep fashion person, I'm somebody who loves design, image, loves fashion. And we all do, you know, the beauty of disappearing into an Italian Vogue story, or, you know, the artistry of looking at a Courrèges couture coat or whatever, you know. There is a lot of skill and beauty within fashion. But what terrified me, and this is my starting point, was how can this be responsible for this? Now take it in, children, because that is a big leap. How is it that, look at the garments that you're wearing. How is it that what we love to dress up, as man, since the dawn of time, has been busting a look. It's what we do. It's what makes us human. It's wonderful. We have adorned ourselves, beautified ourselves since the earliest cave dwellings. And we're still doing it now. And it's a fabulous thing. And I'm not anti it. No. Everyone's busting a look. We're very tribal. And I relish this. I'm particularly anti-trends because I think they've boxed fashion into a corner. Look at her, it's how great, you know. There are, you know, like the wonderful speaker earlier on talking about the dull men's society. You know, there are so many ways to be human. There's so many ways to express our humanity. And whether we're a fashion designer or just someone that's into clothes, we're all human. But what's happened is we are literally now at a crisis point. And I don't want to frighten you, but I also don't want to lie to you. So, for instance, I would recommend you take a note and have a look on YouTube. There's a scientist and expert on water called Maud Barlow. And she wrote a book about 10 years ago called Blue Gold. And she goes around with a group of scientists assessing water, the conditions of water in our country. Right now in China, 70% of the rivers in China are dead beyond repair. Okay? Now, there are 1.5 billion people in China. There's not enough water. Why did those rivers die? Because they were making cheap sneakers for the West. We've run riot with this thing. And the crisis has come. It's not 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's here right now. But if you're someone like me who is a fashion person, I still want to bust a look. I love clothes. But so this is a very interesting uncomfortable sandwich, and you can hear from all that you've heard today from so many different speakers, it's a complicated one, and you can, if you're not careful, either frighten yourself, freak yourself out, or just get lost in the information. This image I carry in my heart because I've worked with children like this. We're facing, when we look at sustainability, what does it mean even now? It doesn't mean anything. It will mean something different to every single human here in this auditorium. It's just become a word, a noise. But what is, on top of the complexity of human rights, workers' rights, earth rights, children's rights, we've got an epidemic of mental illness, addiction, anorexia, self-harm, cancer. We humans have never looked better. Isn't that interesting? And we're all there with our selfies and our this and our that, but we've never felt worse. So to me, obviously, part of this is because our governments and big businesses and big brandings are gambling with everybody's future, and they've turned our earth, this is everyone's home, into a casino. And we're now starting to see, I think the last speaker was talking about resource wars. Yes, that's what's coming, water. But trust me, it's already here. Water, oil, cotton. One of my colleagues in the minute, he reckons there won't be any more cotton T-shirts in 5 years' time. So the corruption, really, for big businesses that are still following just the bottom line and sales, has kind of pushed us all into a corner. But what's brilliant to me is because humans are so ingenious, we are able to think our way out of this. But this is the true cost. This is the true cost of fast fashion. So next time you just feel like whizzing into Henny's and scoring a quick white T-shirt, just think twice. But also think of in terms of yourself as designers. Because to me, as much as this is a sort of very frightening thing, I actually welcome change. I think we have to start being really discerning about where we get our news, reading between the lines, thinking properly rather than just accepting, just consuming, mindlessly consuming. There's a lot of playfulness that can come. I mean, what I'm seeing from where I'm standing is, number one, fast fashion has backed itself into a corner. The youngsters have finally worked out they don't want to look like 5,000 other women. Why would you? Do you know what I mean? So naturally, anyway, as a trend, people are starting to remake and upcycle and what once seemed really hopeful and exciting and was good. I mean, it's not a bad thing. This is just evolution. This is just natural evolution. But look at the state America is in. I mean, they really probably are suffering more than any other country on earth right now, weirdly. And that's through absolutely embracing big business, corporations, from being a very powerful industry to now quite a weak one and a very mentally ill one and incredibly badly dressed one. So where are we going? The good news, because there's a lot of good news here, is, and this has come up, I've been really pleased, every speaker I've heard today has spoken about transparency. This is a trend, and this is a big, ongoing trend. And what's happening is we are demanding it in each other, we're demanding it in our businesses. It's very, very interesting that where the food industry is playing ball, and really you can trace now pretty much where your meat comes from, or your bananas, fashion still doesn't want to play ball. And there are many here, I'm sure, including me, I've sat on boards where we've tried to get traceability, but people are shifty as fucking fashion. They don't want to really tell you where and what, and we could have maybe we should all push for some kind of simple labelling. But it was lovely, the speaker earlier talking about Patagonia, where that should have worked against them. The fact that, actually what we want from our brands is we want them to be our friends and be nice to us and not lie to us. So transparency's and if you are thinking of setting up your own businesses, think about that. And it feels better. It's like, you know yourself, if you tell a lie, you just feel like shit all day. To be able to really have a business and go, yeah, and this is where we get our thing, and we do this. And but do not underestimate. But transparency is different to worthiness, and I think we have to really, really, really think about that now, because, as I said, sustainability to me right now is the kiss of death. Sadly, it's not what you actually. If you're a new brand, you want to be on the down low about that, because people just think you're worthy. And I think somebody mentioned it earlier on. I was appalled. I came across it last year. It's now a branding term, literally turns my stomach. They call it virtue signalling. That's a marketing term. So how cynical is that? That we've come to a point where I'm walking out into society signalling to my peers that I'm a really good guy because I'm wearing an organic cotton t-shirt. Virtue signalling. Versus what kind of virtues or none or what. But from where I'm coming from today, as a deep fashion person, as someone that's looked at this for 10 years, has looked at it holistically, so I've looked at every component, whether it's making, whether we're looking at anorexia, whether we're looking at ethics within the industry, you're seeing all the sorts of, problems coming up and out, whether it's a Me Too or whatever. Everything is broken. It's a really interesting starting point. So just take a moment and take that in, because it's true. Everything's broken. We have a systemic problem, whether it's farming, whether it's education, whether it's in the making of the fashion, whether it's in the treating of the garment workers, whether it's child labour, whether it's pollution. It's all not working. It's not like it's working in some areas and it's working here. But weirdly, as you've seen today, the one place it is working is it's always going to be the creatives and the weirdos and the fashion mavericks who come up with the answers. And they're coming, and it's really reassuring to see. But anyone adhering to the old model, I believe, they'll be left behind. We're already seeing it. High street sales are just down and down and down. And then why would one even want to go and work in a company like that? I heard an incredible piece of gossip the other day from a friend of mine who'd been working in Arcadia that Philip Green, as a punishment, check this out. Apparently, if you've done something bad, he makes you wear a wooden hanger all day. Really? It's a very dangerous nuts industry. It shouldn't be. Look at it. As long as there are people, we need clothes. And yet, the way we're doing our being is not serving us. Not only is it not serving us, it's driving our destruction. Wow. As you heard previously when Kate was speaking, it's the second biggest polluter on Earth. So it should not cost us the Earth to look good. But right now, that's what we're looking at. So, Einstein's a clever bloke, and changing normal is what I'm saying. We have to change. We have to wake up. We have to come out of denial, realise the system is broken, be a bit freaked out about it, then get over it and come up with something better. Wake up. You're very lucky you're at this university, which is very forward-thinking and has some fantastic teachers and resources that can help you do that, and you're already seeing it with your own practice. But it does require a leap of faith, because we've all been taught, all of us, about shifting the most amount. But, I love when you were speaking earlier, you've designed a way that's sane for you, haven't you, within your, because I know a lot of businesses they get too quick too soon, thinking they're doing well because they've got the orders. But a leap of faith or a leap of consciousness into a new way of what would success look like? And what is each of your terms? Each of you will have a different kind of notion. I think I'm really excited. I could feel there is already a fashion revolution. You can see also there's just Castro's on it. We're all on it because we're facing such a complicated, awful mess. And it's not, I'm not talking about 10 years away, 20 years away, I'm talking about 5 or less. And there's no need for it. So to me, I'm really pleased that in a way it's got everyone's attention. In order to demonstrate what a leap of consciousness looks like, I believe that the fashion industry fashion is a barometer. So you can actually see how a human society is doing at any given time. So this is a picture taken at the turn of the last century by Henri Latigue. This is how women wore. This is what they were. Corseted, they had very, very strict social morals, they couldn't go out without a chaperone, immensely complicated undergarments, hair, it was all going on. Now, 20 years ago, I was pushing roughly the same look. I haven't really changed that much. But these images Henri Latigue took of his family in France on holiday, turn of the century. 20 years later, women look like this. That was his lover, René. Look at the jump. No underwear, suntan, short hair, completely free. Now, why did that happen? That's a big jump. Look at it. Actually, it came through considerable privation and difficulty through the First World War, and everyone got freaked out badly. But as a result, the Bohemian movement was born, and we got Picasso, and we got Chanel, and we got a lot of really good things came of it. But so I really don't want to frighten anybody by alerting you to the fact that we are in crisis. I believe it's a good thing. But what's not a good thing is to pretend it's not happening. Again, this is a photograph of René. This would be one of the very, very first T-shirts ever made. Because again, as the advances move and grow as they are, fantastic advances we're seeing now in fabric development, anything's possible. But imagine, the whole Olympics were run for years without stretch until someone came up with the technology. But the wave of change is upon us, and you can see it, you can feel it on the wind. Even things like the Me Too movement, which was nothing 6 months ago. It's everywhere. So more and more and more people are getting more and more agitated, and it's playing out in the fashion arena. What I believe is this is a model I come back to time and time again. This is something put together by a very amazing woman called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who invented the hospice movement and sort of revolutionised dying, really, in the West. And what she found is that either somebody had been diagnosed with a fatal illness or a family member, but everyone goes through this cycle, but we all do it in our own time. So first of all, we go in denial. We can sometimes hang around between sort of denial and anger, and then we try and make and then finally we get to acceptance. And then and that's mostly when people get well, or they at least get peaceful. So I believe that having worked in the now ethical industry for 10 years, I'm happy because I'm seeing most industries, governments, and people on the street more up this end between depression and acceptance. It is all fucked. Now what? This is a good place. You're right, it's not fun. None of it's fun. And it wasn't even your fault. This is worse for you. You just walked into this. It was all the grown-ups that screwed it up. I've used here a pair of flares as an example of a leap of consciousness, because it really interests me. I can remember the summer of '76 when we'd all been wearing flares for years. There wasn't the internet. Everyone was into flares. It was just flares. It was the '70s. And then overnight, I'm talking about literally overnight, without the internet, without phones, it was as if flares never existed, and the whole of mankind just went towards straight pipes, we did, without a backward glance. happened. And so fashion trends, I think we need to think about trends as a wider thing than just a colour or a cut. It's also how we do our being and how we put it together. And absolutely, I know without a shadow of doubt, it is our creativity that will save us. It probably won't be the politicians, and it probably won't be the scientists. It'll be the crazy fashion maverick weirdos who just go, I wonder what would happen if, and you do this every day. It's lovely, isn't it? And that's why the fashion industry I hold so dear to my heart, because it's a vital force that probably we'll be able to think our way out, and we can see already today so many fantastic solutions. Summing up here, really, the places I feel will work, and I'm using this in my own work, and I openly welcome anyone to do this, is to take a much more female model, which is collaborative consumption. So rather than competing against each other, we work with each other. So rather than this kind of hierarchical top-down, I do it in my own workplace. I mean, for instance, I'm really, really, really clever, but I'm really dyslexic and ADHD. So I always have to have a PA who is super, super up together, because I'm not. So it's a good collaboration, because there's loads of amazing stuff I can do, she can't, and vice versa. So there's a supportive thing within industries and offices. And this is a famous quote by Martin Luther King. And it's that simple. We must live together as brothers or perish together as fools. And it's come to that. And if you look at Dragon's Den and you look at the new work, the old model of marketing and so-called success, you look at most of the designers out there who might be successful, they're either junkies, they're in rehab. Look at Alexander McQueen. There's a lot of mentally ill people out there who've been pushed to the limit by the chain of pain of this relentless cycle of spring, summer, autumn, winter. It all ends up in landfill. And it wasn't very nice anyway. And so I really believe that personal style is a way through. Any of you who are not familiar with Schumacher, get jiggy with it now. He is a very important economist and the inventor of the whole notion of small is beautiful. I believe wholeheartedly that we're already seeing it. What we want to be doing is producing less, but producing it better, make it more expensive, make it an experience for the buyer. And we're seeing, the rise of farmers markets, ethical companies. It's not that we're do-gooders. It actually makes better, smarter business to be ethical, to be transparent. It's just a better way of doing things, and finding your own way within it. Built to last, no question. I think we should all start to work that way. And any of you remember when you were a child and Christmas, when you were so excited about Christmas and it wasn't coming and it wasn't going, how the longing. If we can build longing into our own products and our own lives, you have a much more rich, sort of evocative life. And so saving up to buy a ridiculously expensive pair of boots is a bit of a turn-on, because when you get them, they're yours. And if they're good, they'll last a good 5-10 years. And if you're stylish, you'll never go out of fashion, because you're not some idiot that's following trends. Why, who the hell would want to follow someone else's dictate on a trend? So building our own structures, lives, models, designs, ethics that last rather than burning out. Gandhi's very close to my heart in that, he understood about the weaves. There are so many stories within cloth. You can trace timelines and history through it all, and it all comes back to the making and the looms And he's got a lot to say on manufacture, and for those of you who are interested, you can look into it. Please be alert to brainwashing, because it's happening to you all day. Do not believe the hype. Check it out for yourself. Edit and monitor your own sources. We all like a bit of crap telly and whatever. That's cool. I'm not being judgmental here, but who's zooming who? Are you in charge of your own consumption? Or are you being kind of threatened and humiliated into wearing something you don't even really like? I'm really, really excited about post-conventional. I believe this is the secret. I mean, I started this, I put this here because I started to think about white goods and white caravans, and why are all caravans white? Well, if you sometimes, they're really exciting, you might get a sort of brown flash. Because nobody questioned it. Nobody did. That's what I'm saying. Question it. Even your own process. Do I really want to be doing this? Or, pick it up, put it down. Don't just take it as the rules, because it's the only thing there. I think there are so many exciting opportunities coming because we are running out of resources, and it's going to make us rethink how we live on Earth, and just perhaps have less, but really love the things that you have. Yes, as I've said, longing is for something I feel that's missing from current design and retail. We're in this endless hit, sort of addictive hit, the next lipstick, the next top, the next, as opposed to, I love that thing and I'm going to save £5 a week till it's mine. It means that when you do get the thing you've got, you really love it. I'd probably sound like a hippie talking about a love economy, but I would say that a love economy goes hand in hand with a circular economy. I think they make sense. I think right now the fashion industry is not treating its workers in a loving way. I mean, whether you're looking at people working on women's magazines or in factories, it's a complete psychotic mess right now. So coming back to a way of loving what you do, working out your parameters, and doing the least harm, even day to day. Save Our Skills, this has come up today several times, and I'm really, really pleased. This is quite a moving image. This is a piece of jungle, Amazonian jungle, that was cleared, and this is the Amazonian tribe, and that was their message to the world. I've used it for SOS, for Save Our Skills. Lots of people now are sort of on this bandwagon, which is a good thing. All I would say here is that just in the same way we have animals are becoming extinct, look at the numbers now. Hardly any, 220-something elephants, ridiculous amounts. Skills also are becoming extinct. And when they're gone, they're gone. They're gone. And there aren't enough art schools protecting them, auditing them, looking after them. Indigenous tribes feel that they're poor and lowly and they don't want that. They want to shop at Zara like everyone else. But anyone who can incorporate and save skills, however tiny, is doing something important for future generations. Because when they're gone, they really are gone. And, the handicrafts and so much of what Gandhi was saying was, we're re-evaluating what's valuable. That is what's changing normal. What is the point of having money? What would Donald Trump do if he was stuck in the Amazonian forest in his Gucci suit with his gold Amex? He wouldn't fare very well, would he? We're going to need more than cash. William Morris, if you don't know about William Morris, Google him, learn everything there is to know about him. Cool man, who changed British industry, who I work with Morrisonian principles. He's working with craft, fairness, fair pay, fair practice, training. And I do predict, I absolutely know, and we're already seeing it, it will be the smaller fashion labels that do the best in the next 5 to 10 years. The big ones will just go down the pan. It's already happening. They're all kind of over. And love your hands. Think about them and think about others and the beauty of making and how human that is. And we're becoming desperately dehumanized as we're getting more and more of a robot workforce, which in the end is a false economy. So slow fashion isn't for hippies. It sort of makes sense. There's a lot of evidence now about pre-tail. So pre-retail, you pay half up front for somebody to come and make you those handmade shoes. Waiting, longing, it's the opposite of fast fashion. Our making ability is what makes us really special. Keep having bright ideas. Keep being transparent. I really am excited about the future, and I'm really glad everything's falling apart. So that's why I put this here. But it's really important to understand that it is, and that it's necessary, because that's part of the endless creative cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. And it's very, very important to just question everything, including your own motives, and be an honest dialogues with others, because there's plenty of room, I think, in a world that isn't trend-led by outer trends. I'm hoping we'll see the birth of more and more personal style, whether it's in interiors, whether it's in clothes, whether it's in models of doing business. We're moving towards a much more exciting future. I'll leave it there if there's any questions, but I hope that makes sense.